Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow good stories. We invite you to watch the series Betrayal of Dignity. I'm pregnant with his child words. Alice's confession still echoed inside Chloe's head until she goes back to her room. Chloe, what should I do? The image of her sister in despair made her unable to stop worrying. Chloe thought warily. Is this happening because we have placed too much of a burden on her? If this is the price we have to pay for our own selfishness, then we must prevent this marriage at all costs. Price. Chloe clutched the corner of her dress, secretly determined. I must first convince my father. Early the next morning at Verdier Castle, Chloe woke up and went to her father's room to discuss something. What brings you here so early in the morning? Viscount Verdier looked at his daughter curiously. I want to tell you about Alice's marriage. Chloe hesitated a bit. I've been thinking a bit, and the Viscount frankly said, I've been pondering this all night. The possibility of Alice marrying into the Grand Ducal family is both a concern and a great relief. Chloe wondered what her father meant. This is a family that values honor, which means they would never chase Alice away. Instead, they would find fault with her personality or behavior. The Viscount explained. Chloe became shaken when she heard her father's words. Duke, this certainly knows his fate. It's cruel when a person gets divorced in this empire. Chloe looked seriously at the Viscount. Father, there is something I must tell you. Viscount put down his cup of tea and asked, what's going on? Suddenly, servant Gilles opened the door and shouted loudly, Lord Verdier, Lady Chloe, Lady Alice, she has disappeared. Chloe and her father were shocked to hear this shocking news. The Viscount asked eagerly, what do you mean, Gilles? How could she disappear? The servant gave the Viscount a stack of letters and said, I found this in her room. The Viscount quickly grabbed it and exclaimed, show it to me. To my beloved father and dear sister, I grew up witnessing the boundless love father had for mother. I learned from you that true love transcends both illness and death. Because you are living proof of the power of love, I no longer wish to ignore what my heart desires. I also wish to keep my head held high for the sake of the child I carry, and prove to myself that no love should be forbidden. I shall now relinquish the name of Verdier, and simply live as Alice. I apologize, father. Do not forgive me for this selfish deed. Chloe, I am sorry. I hope I will be able to make amends for this one day. When the Viscount read the end of the letter, his whole body shook. Chloe shouted, Father. He fainted on the floor because he was so shocked. Even though I'm a thankless daughter, but please know that I am sincere when I say that I love you with a heavy heart and 1,000 apologies, Alice. Alice's departure more or less made the already gloomy mansion seem more deserted. Chloe had been by her sick father's side all day when the Viscount finally woke up and whispered, Chloe, my dear, did you know about that? Chloe could only keep silent before her father's question. He continued slowly, I vaguely realized that Alice was interested in a certain man. The fact that you did not mention it to me means that you did not agree with this. And if even you saw if he's obnoxious, he's definitely a scoundrel. Chloe replied, if Alice leaves despite my objections, then I'm sure he must be a worthy man. I trust her. Chloe held her father's hand and comforted him. I believe everything will be fine. Please focus on your recovery. She tried to force a smile on her lips. As for Duke, leave it to me. I shall speak with him. Chloe left the Viscount's room with the Marquis. She raised her voice to question. You looked the other way when she left, did you not? Gilles could only stand still and listen to the owner's explanation. I knew from the moment you walked in holding her letter. You would never have entered her room without her permission. The servant also did not hide anything. I suppose there's no use hiding anything from you. Chloe looked straight into his eyes and said softly, thank you for being there for her. I wasn't sure the right thing to do myself. That is why I am grateful to you for helping her leave. What done is done. We must make the best of it now. After hearing this, Gilles felt uneasy and reached out his hand to stop her, mumbling and calling, Lady Chloe. But he gathered his courage and held Gilles' trembling hand tightly, looking down in regret. I hope you won't blame yourself. Please don't think you must take responsible for this, because if you do, Chloe immediately interrupted. I don't know how I can live with myself. She said the last word. Gilles, I am the only one who can take care of the house Verdier now. I will find a way for all of us to survive, even if it is a dangerous choice. Three days later, at the estate next to the Verdier Duchy, the Duke's voice was filled with complacency. How unexpected. Did you find my offer of marriage so pleasing that you decided to personally inform me of its acceptance? Chloe replied that it was not something I could discuss in a letter. The Duke changed the subject. Are you affected with an infectious disease? Chloe hesitated. I'm not sure what you mean. If that isn't the case, why don't you step closer? Damien smiled slightly. Come, take a seat next to me. His appearance today is a bit more liberal than usual. That made Chloe feel uncomfortable and saw her hesitate. The Duke raised his voice. Or will you disobey my orders? Chloe showed a dissatisfied face and sat down on the sofa. He continued to talk. My wound is not getting any better. Chloe asked, have you seen a physician? The Duke replied, no. He looked at the medical box filled with bottles of solution and said, will you apply some of this solution for me? Chloe looked unenthusiastic. This expression, he excitedly read out. Do you not have hands, your grace? I can tell what you are thinking with look on your face. She frowned in discomfort. Well, you are mistaken. On the sofa, Chloe gently applied medicine to the Duke's wound and advised, these days are too hot to promote proper healing. It would be best to remain indoors as much as possible. Spending time outside will only impede the process. Damien replied, we don't have such pleasant summers back home on this estate. I enjoy the feeling of being scorched from head to toe. Chloe suddenly blushed with embarrassment. You may withdraw your arm now. Why was my proposal rejected? Chloe clutched the corner of her dress, gathering the courage to reveal the truth. Marriage is now physically infeasible for my sister. And the reason? Did she suddenly pass away? Duke this asked. May I ask you a question? Double quotes. As Damien put his shirt back on, he replied, go ahead. Chloe asked bluntly, the reason you want to marry my sister, is it because of me? The sound of the waves mixed with the Duke's mocking tone. I'm curious. Why do you think that, Chloe? I am asking if your intention in interfering with my family is to being about my complete and utter ruin, Chloe replied. The Duke burst into laughter. Do you remember what you said to me the other day? If you think every woman in this kingdom desperate to marry you, then that is a delusion of self-satisfaction, she said, with a sneer. I would say it is you, Lady Chloe, who is self-absorbed to the point of delusion. The Duke continued to mock. Do you really think I would marry the daughter of an undistinguished Latin viscount just to torment you, her disabled sister? Chloe responded angrily. You're right. I think it unlikely. Damien replied sarcastically. You can be surprisingly amusing sometimes. Did you know that? Chloe replied. No, I did not. Does that mean you love Alice then? Damien sighed. Do I strike you as a romantic who believes marriage should be based on love? Chloe responded, then there can only be one other explanation as to why you proposed to my sister. And what could that be? Damien asked. Chloe offered her hypothesis. There must be some pressing reason why you must marry the daughter of House Verdier, one that you cannot reveal to others. The Duke hesitated. Go on. Chloe boldly continued. If there is some reason behind why you must turn down the most eligible brides in the kingdom for the offspring of a low-ranking family, it likely does not matter who you marry, which means you might even prefer to wed a woman with a flaw so conspicuous that no one would give her a second glance. Damien smiled faintly. You mean, for instance, a woman who has lost the use of one leg? Chloe, determined, replied, if I would have a more perfect bride for you, would I not? At that moment, Damien moved closer, his lips nearing hers. Before Chloe could react, the Duke captured her sweet lips in a kiss. Chloe gasped, her entire body becoming paralyzed and limp. She tried to push the Duke away to escape the kiss. But how could a girl's strength resist a man who had once been to the battlefield? After a while, Damien finally released Chloe. Her breathing became rapid. She struggled to break free from the Duke's possession. What do you think you're doing? Chloe asked angrily. Damien slyly replied, you always say such cutting remarks that I wanted to see just how sharp your tongue could truly be. This seems like the perfect opportunity to ask if you are able to bear me an heir. He bent down to kiss her bare shoulders and inhaled the sweet scent from her body. Slap. One side of Damien's face bore a stinging red mark. In her fury, Chloe had slapped the arrogant Duke straight in the face. She raised her voice, scolding. To act this way when you have yet to respond to my offer is shockingly disrespectful, Your Grace. Damien licked the corner of his mouth. He straightened himself and smirked. Indeed, that is a fitting response. However, I suggest you familiarize yourself with the principles of negotiation again. Now go. Looking at the man in front of her, Chloe couldn't help but feel worried and uneasy. Several days had passed since the meeting with the Duke at the neighboring estate, yet Chloe couldn't forget what had happened. She sat absent-mindedly on the chair, unable to focus on anything. Recalling the scene, Chloe unconsciously placed her hand on her lips. Those lips had been possessed by that man. He had kissed her deeply. He had looked at her with a face full of desire and possession. Her lips curved into a faint smile, and a soft voice escaped. Chloe? Lady Chloe. She jolted back to reality, realizing that Jules had been very worried, seeing her mistress looking so lost. Are you all right? You are looking quite pale. Chloe exhaled a breath, regaining her composure. I'm fine. Now, where were we? Jules continued reading the letter. Following the congratulatory message regarding the engagement, the royal family has continued to send gifts to Lady Alice. The garden is still full of wagons packed with presents. The servant hesitated slightly, then asked, if I may ask, my lady, did your conversation with the Duke not go well? Chloe thought to herself, was my intuition correct? Prince Johannes is the official heir to the royal throne, but there is one person whose power is comparable to that of the royal family and who enjoys the respect of the people. No one else but the Duke this. The royal family must be delighted by the news that the Duke, whose power has grown immensely, is marrying the daughter of a humble viscount instead of a noblewoman from a distinguished family. The Duke himself was aware of this fact. There was a knock on the door, and another servant entered the room. He respectfully leaned toward Chloe and informed her, a guest has arrived, my lady. A guest? Who is it? Chloe asked. It's Duke this, the servant replied. She started when she heard that name mentioned. Shall I let the master know? The servant asked. Chloe grabbed her cane and began to stand up. No, my father is ill. We shouldn't disturb him. I shall meet the Duke on his behalf. Please ask him to wait in for me in the drawing room. I'll go get ready and then meet him there. In Chloe's private room, the Duke's voice suddenly sounded. There you are. Both were taken aback to see Damien sitting on the sofa. I've been waiting for you, the Duke said with a warm smile. You look surprised to see me here. Chloe, annoyed, responded. It is highly improper to enter a lady's empty bedchamber uninvited, your grace. Damien stepped toward her. I couldn't help myself. I missed you too much. This is a private place. I will have you shown the drawing room, Chloe replied. He reached out and touched a strand of her chestnut hair. Will that really be necessary? Our relationship will soon be such that we will not be needing privacy from one another. Gilles stood nearby, feeling dizzy and disgusted by the Duke's actions. Clearly, his expressions were noticed by Damien. The Duke frowned angrily at the contemptuous servant who was disrupting his good moment. Damien shot him a sharp look and ordered, shut the door. Gilles retreated like a discarded puppy, gripping the door handle tightly, his whole body trembling with helplessness. Back in Chloe's private room, Damien handed her a gift. These jewels have been passed down through the generations of House This. If we were to follow traditions, my mother would be the one giving these to you. But she does not quite approve of this match. Chloe responded coldly. That's to be expected. I understand. Seeing her resigned demeanor, Damien felt at a loss for words and accused. Are you only pretending to remain calm, or do you genuinely feel indifferent? Chloe glanced at him and honestly replied, I'm afraid to reacting too hastily, for I don't know what words will come out of your mouth next. He smiled slightly. Does this mean you accept my offer, your grace? Chloe gently replied, yes. Damien held a finely crafted necklace and spoke gently. Consider this a proposal, Chloe Verdier. Will you be my wife? Chloe looked at the man in front of her and bowed sincerely. I am truly grateful that you decide to accept my offer. Damien was puzzled. Grateful? Yes, your grace, Chloe replied. He gently put the necklace back in its place. And how will you prove that? Chloe replied, I will do my very best to be of assistance in endeavor you undertake regardless of what it may be. And what do you think I want? Chloe hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Chloe, must I run my tongue across your parched lips again to make you open your mouth? Blushing, Chloe responded, I believe it is power that you want, although I am much too short-sighted to know precisely what you are thinking. Damien, slightly annoyed, clicked his tongue and warned, From this momentum, you are torn from saying such things in my presence. I know you are not short-sighted. Chloe's face reddened as she hesitantly replied, I shall do everything in my capacity to assist you and if you should wish to divorce in the future, I shall gladly accept to your request. Damien raised his voice. You would grant me a divorce? He smirked and looked at her with amusement. How insolent. Chloe, your arrogance infuriates me. Chloe clutched the edge of her dress tightly. I apologize if that is how it sounded, but I hope you will not misconstruct my intentions. Damien, losing patience, gave her a cold look and asked in a deep, direct voice, and what exactly is your intention? What is? If you hope you'll get from me. Chloe gripped her dress even tighter and gathering her resolve, directly answered, I want to be a duchess. Damien stepped toward her, taking the jeweled necklace and silently placing it around Chloe's neck. The Duke's expression was very satisfied. Saying you want to become the Duchess is exactly what I wanted to hear. It means you are willingly offering yourself to me. How does it feel to wear the jewels of house this around your neck? Feeling shy, Chloe quickly turned away. They feel heavy, your grace. Duke this said, this is nothing compared to the weight of responsibility you will carry as the wife of a duke. Do you still wish to be my wife? Chloe was silent for a moment, but quickly made up her mind and accepted. I wish for nothing more in the world. Damien gently lifted her face. I see. And have you given more thought to the principles of this negotiation? He slyly asked. What do you think it is I want in this very moment? Chloe, surprised, grabbed the Duke's collar, her face turning red as she gave him a deep kiss. Damien responded to her boldness by entwining their mouths. Chloe's breathing became rapid, and her cheeks flushed with each advance of his lips. After a while, her hands gradually loosened their grip on his collar. Still shy after the passionate kiss, Chloe felt overwhelmed. The Duke smiled slightly and observed her expression. Is this too much for you? The Duke chuckled softly, observing the girl's expression as she replied, I do not wish to lie. Damien's reminder that she would have to get used to it only made her more resolute. Things will only get more intense, he continued. After the Duke's proposal to Chloe, they quickly informed Lord Duke of the news. Oh, my dear Chloe, I had absolutely no idea, Damien assured, holding her hand warmly. I expect she will make a fine duchess, Viscount beamed. Of course, she will guarantee it. My daughter is a wise young lady. I am sure she will win everyone's respect. If you can just make her happy, I shall willingly offer everything I have, including my own life, Viscount said. At that moment, the Duke placed his hand over Chloe's hand. Suddenly, Chloe realized the gloves she had intended to give to the Duke earlier. Somehow, he had found them. Those were the gloves she had embroidered but hadn't been able to give to him yet. If that's the case, Damien's confident voice brought her back to reality. Will you grant me the forest on the Verdier estate and the moutaine that leads to it? Viscount surprised. The forest and moutaine. But the soil is barren, and those trees can't be used for anything. Damien replied. They are lands cherished by Lady Chloe. They also happen to be where everything began between the two of us, he added, as Chloe officially joined the chessboard of life. Do you swear to remain by your spouse's side for life and fulfill your duties through all the trials and tribulations you may face? Damien looked at the radiant bride before him. I do, she replied firmly. Now the bride and groom could kiss each other as a solemn vow before God. Chloe blushed shyly upon hearing the Archbishop's words, and suddenly Damien leaned in close and kissed her cheek. Curious, the Archbishop asked if she expected something else. Chloe glanced nervously elsewhere, avoiding eye contact. Duke Viscount applauded, praising her splendid appearance, while Gilles, her beloved, looked on in awe at her transcendent beauty in the pure white gown. The Archbishop's voice rang out amidst the presence of our Lord, declaring them husband and wife. Damien glanced at his bride and called her name as Chloe accidentally dropped the bouquet of roses in her hand, amidst the startled exclamations. Damien lifted her up amidst the well wishes of the guests. Chloe, blushing and tiny, begged, Our sincerest congratulations, your grace. Please put me down once again. He kissed her cheek. Do you intend to drag this out? The Duke's words only made Chloe blush even more. She wrapped her arms around his neck as he smiled contentedly. Well done, Chloe von This. 3 months later, at Verdier territory, everyone in the village was abuzz about the marriage between the lord of the house of This and the eldest daughter of the Viscount. For immediately after the ceremony, the Duke had left without spending even one night with his new bride. People speculated that the Duchess had been abandoned at her parents' home. Additionally, a tabloid had spread rumors that even after getting married, the Duke could not abandon his philandering ways. The mistress mentioned in the rumors was the Marchioness Isabella. At the dress shop, Chloe read all the news from that tabloid. The shop owner, standing next to her, appeared worried. "I shall burn it at once, my lady," she said. Chloe replied calmly, "That won't be necessary. Burning these newspapers won't make those rumors disappear into ashes. If you have finished taking my measurements, I shall take my leave." The woman looked confused. "But we have yet discussed the fabric and design." Chloe responded slowly, "I will leave that to your description. You are more knowledgeable in these matters than I." The shop owner respectfully bowed as Chloe left. She glanced at the gossip column and sighed. Men and their inability to manage themselves will be the ruin of this country. The sound of horse hooves echoed. Inside the carriage, the servant Gilles asked, "Why don't you delegate the management of the estate to someone else during this period? I can take care of your affairs as well." Chloe replied that there was no need to pay attention to the malicious things those tabloids mentioned. "Gilles, if people were to see me, the Duchess, allowing myself to be swayed by such baseless rumors, they will only grow more uneasy," she said. Gilles could only remain silent, watching his mistress endure with a calm expression, as there was something more pressing on her mind than the outside gossip. Before the Duke left, he had instructed her on her duties. "I shall return to the capital now that the ceremony is over," Damien said, staring intently. "As for you, you may perform your ducal duties from here." Chloe thought to herself that for the past 3 months, he hadn't responded to any of the letters she sent. Recalling the image of her husband entwined with that red-haired woman in the newspaper, she wondered if that was the reason. "To be honest, I don't expect anything from this marriage," she thought, clenching the corner of her dress. "There is no reason for this to affect me." Gilles, understanding her thoughts, spoke up. "Lady Chloe, there is good news waiting for you at the mansion." "Good news?" she asked. "Yes, a letter from Lady Alice. It's quite short, but it seems she is still well." Chloe's mood instantly changed as she cheerfully asked, "Why did you not tell so sooner, Gilles?" "A letter from Alice is wonderful." The butler was also happy for her, knowing that Alice was safe and that her father's health had improved. This marriage had also lifted the spirits of the people in the territory. What could be better? In any case, I hope to live far away from him, Chloe thought. If I could live peacefully like this forever, she mused, as evening fell upon the mansion.